And another thing that was interesting about reading kind of the comments in the assignments was about barriers. So, another thing that I think people significantly underestimate is the ability to overcome barriers and challenges when they happen when you're trying to start a new habit, when you're trying to kind of create progress towards a goal. So, in the assignment, these students were required to outline their goal or outline their client's goal, their fake client, outline their client's goal, and then identify the barriers that would get in the way of this client achieving the goal. So they had to identify at least two barriers and then two strategies to combat the barriers that were identified. So a minimum of two of each. And some of them had a hard time doing this because it was kind of hard to think through. It's like, oh, well, I have my day to day, but because I want to achieve this goal, now I have to think about my day to day a little bit differently in terms of creating a new habit or modifying a habit that already exists so I can accommodate the behaviors that need to happen to achieve this goal I say I want to achieve. So they were identifying the barriers, and then they had to detail out what the barrier meant. So it's not just, oh, I won't have enough time. Well, you can create time to do things. So what does that actually mean? How do you break that down? How do you define not having enough time to do something? For the strategies, write things down, put it in your calendar, set an alert, different strategies. But it was very apparent that the amount of detail required for someone to see a goal, notice that there might be some barriers that come up because life can life sometimes. We have to be honest about that. So when those barriers happen, identifying them, defining them, being honest, when those barriers happen, and then defining the strategies that you will do, like realistic strategies that you will do to help yourself out when those things happen. Is it phoning a friend? Is it an exercise buddy? Like I said, is it the calendar? Is it a running group? Is it a, weekly phone call with someone? Is it a tracker? Is it an app? Like, how are you using all the resources available to you? Technology, traditional paper and pen, another person. How are you using strategies to support yourself in the process of creating habits to achieve your goal? So that was not detailed enough, I would say, in a lot of the things that I read. And again, it just reiterates the fact that things are going to happen. Things are going to happen no matter what we try, no matter how hard we plan. Something is likely to come up. And not to be, pessimist, but things can happen. So it's best to be prepared when things happen. Even if it doesn't, it's best to be prepared. So when you're setting goals, making sure you're breaking down the goals so they are in bite-sized pieces, but also being honest with yourself about the barriers and the challenges that might come up in the process of creating the daily habits, but also just as those habits become part of the lifestyle, just being able to say, you know what, I did plan for this. This is how I'm going to react. So having the barriers and then having the strategies to combat the barriers as they arise. And you'll be prepared. You'll be flexible, you'll be prepared, you'll have your habits, and you'll achieve your goal. So if you've ever had any barriers or challenges come up and you didn't have a plan, how'd that work out? Did you stay on track? Were you thrown off track? Did you have to start over? I'd love to hear your experience with barriers and also just developing a plan to combat the barriers. I'm always interested in what everyone else is doing on that.